Hello everyone. I'm thrilled to be here to talk about tracing immigrant ancestors. And so let's talk about what we're going to cover in this presentation this afternoon. First I'm going to discuss key print and online sources for finding passenger list arrivals. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for finding immigrant ancestors in online databases, and we'll talk about workarounds for the most common problems, some of them that we addressed in that one poll question. And I wanted to start by showing you my website. It's called lisaalzo.com, and here you can go and find articles, other seminars that I've given, and other information. You can also contact me. There's a contact button, and you can feel free to drop me an email after this webinar or anytime if you have any additional questions that I can't answer today in the allotted time period. So let's do an overview. America is a nation of immigrants, and we're comprised of people who left their homelands to find a better life for themselves and their families. And when we trace our immigrant ancestors, it can be a daunting task. There are many complications with trying to find your immigrant ancestors' arrival, and so that's why I designed this webinar, to show you some of the tips and tricks that I often use for locating and searching passenger lists, and also some other key immigration documents that you can find both on and offline to help you trace your routes. Before we begin, I have to have a little disclaimer here. This webinar focuses on U.S. records and passenger lists. I will show a few examples and talk about a few UK sources and briefly mention some Canadian resources, but we're going to focus on U.S. records. So I know this is a worldwide audience, but I just wanted to clarify that it is American immigration records. Also, immigration is a very broad topic. Countless books have been written about this topic, and obviously I can't cover everything in 1 hour. So what I'm focusing on is search basics and some of the most common problems that we all face. You can follow up this webinar by purchasing the CD. On the CD you will also get some bonus handouts in addition to the normal handout that I give with this presentation. I've done this presentation many times in person and also a few times as a webinar. So there are some bonus handouts that you'll get on the CD as well. And I'm also going to show you several other resources that you can use when this webinar is finished to get more information about the topic of immigration. So I also wanted to mention that I'm currently teaching an immigration masterclass for Family Tree University, which goes more in depth about the topic and about searching for your immigrant ancestors. There is a current course that started on Monday, December 5th, but you can still register for this class up until the 9th, and you can save 20% by using their coupon code. And so you can find all the information at familytreeuniversity.com. The next course, if you're busy for the holidays or you can't fit it in, will begin on February 28th. So I just wanted to mention that this masterclass goes into a lot more detail than what I'm able to do in the time today. So let's talk about common roadblocks for finding our immigrant ancestors. And I was interested in the poll question responses, but generally, names can be problematic. The spelling of names, especially for my research, Eastern European names, exotic sounding surnames, complicated spellings, but you don't even have to have a long and complicated name for there to be issues with finding your immigrant ancestors in databases or other records. A lot of problems, especially with online resources, come down to transcription errors and problems, and I'm going to address that as we go through the presentation. Another issue is incorrect family information. So you may hear family lore, or you may talk to an aunt and they say, well, our name has always been spelled this way, or I know your great-grandfather came in through Ellis Island, or whatever the story, or our name was changed at Ellis Island. That is a popular myth that I'll mention also in this presentation. But sometimes we just have incorrect family information, and so that leads us on a wild goose chase. Oftentimes we don't know which port our ancestors arrived at or the exact immigration year. And so sometimes we have to expand our searches to include some other ports and think outside the box a bit. Sometimes you end up searching the wrong port, and maybe that's based on your family information or information that you obtained from another source, but perhaps that source was incorrect. So there are several issues and several roadblocks for finding our ancestors. Also, sometimes if we go to online databases, manifests may be missing when you're trying to view them, or maybe you've clicked on a link and it goes to the wrong manifest. This happens quite frequently in the Ellis Island database, and there are some workarounds for that as well. To give you some general information, I mentioned to you that I'm going to talk about other resources to help you in the search for your immigrant ancestors. And this is one book that I have on my shelf, and I recommend every genealogist has on his or her bookshelf. And this is They Came in Ships, A Guide to Finding Your Immigrant Ancestors Arrival Record by John Coletta. And those of you who know John Coletta, you know he's a fabulous lecturer, a very popular lecturer. But this book is just invaluable to me, and it has a lot of information on the whole immigration process, about ports, about records. I highly recommend this book. Some other information that you can find free online is an article by Marion Smith called A Guide to Interpreting Passenger List Annotations, and you can get this for free at the jewishgen.org website. And also, Marion wrote another article, American Names Declaring Independence, Addressing the Ellis Island Name Change Myth. And so you can get both of these for free online. These, if you buy the CD with the handouts, all these links are in there. Jeff hopefully is posting these as well. But this is what Marion's Guide to Interpreting Passenger List Notations article looks like. Again, this is at jewishgen.org. You can simply go and Google this, and you will get to the link to this article. But this is a very, very fascinating article. It explains a lot about markings and information that you find on passenger lists. And so I highly recommend reading this. Also, this is her immigration article on Declaring Independence, American Names, about the name change myth. So I highly recommend, if you haven't read these, to go through and read them. Gives a lot of great background. Some other information that you can find for free online. Joe Bynes' passenger lists in his genealogy articles, tips, and research guides at genealogybranches.com. And I use this quite frequently because Joe does a phenomenal job of updating the information on all of his guides. And he does have one on passenger lists. If you go to his website, you can see that, how to find them online. He gives you an idea of if it's microfilm, if it's online, also time frame and by port. He also gives some interesting where they came from background. So if you're looking for German immigrants or Irish immigrants, or one of my favorite things to look at is the Russian immigrants link here that he has, that you can find more information, Sweden and so forth. So he lists them by country, and so you can go on and check this out after the webinar. So when we were doing the poll, I was interested to see that most people were said that the majority of their ancestors came between the 1700s and 1800s. Mine happened to come in the 1900 to 1924 date range. But if you're looking for early passenger lists, say from the 1500s to 1900s, you want to check out William Philby's index, which is a starting point, and it has 4.8 million people's arrival details. And you can get this at Ancestry.com if you have a subscription to Ancestry.com. World Vital Records, which of course we know is now part of MyHeritage, also has this index, but WVR's version omits source names in some entries, and for some it just gives the code. So you might, if you have your Ancestry subscription or your access to it through a library, you might want to check this out on Ancestry.com. This is basically what it looks like on the Ancestry.com website, and passenger and immigration list index 1500s to 1900s. And this is World Vital Records website screenshot as well. So you can check this out on your own. This is a good resource if you have, especially if you have immigrants coming in those early time periods. Also, the National Archives Records Administration Ship Manifest from 1820 and later will cover dozens of ports around the U.S. If you are subscribing to Ancestry or access it through a library, you can get the indexes and images of the NARA microfilm passenger lists. Whatever you're finding at NARA, you can find on Ancestry. However, I will talk about instances where you may actually want to go to the microfilm versions as well. But it's wonderful that we have access to this information through subscription or by using Ancestry.com. But I do recommend that you go to the National Archives website and read about the immigration records and what NARA has and what NARA doesn't have, and how to find information on immigrants from different time periods. This is an excellent resource. You can use that, you can read this for free, and if you want to order information, or if you want to find out about additional ports and so forth, this is the place to go. This is one of the main sites that you want to be bookmarking and researching. It's excellent. So you want to take a look at NARA's website if you haven't done so. Of course, Ancestry.com has a huge immigration collection. They have many other things in their immigration collection in addition to all the different ports that you can search. There are things such as border crossings from Canada to the U.S., U.S. passport applications. There are the Hamburg passenger list. There are other immigrant passenger lists that you can search. It's a huge collection, and you should definitely keep up to date. They're always adding new things into their collections, and so you want to check out all the different things that are available on the Ancestry.com collection. A few other resources that I want to just bring to your attention is the Immigrant Ships Transcribers Guild website, which is immigrantships.net, where you can search millions of names from ships back to the voyage of Columbus. It's a volunteer site, transcribed by volunteers. There's USA, there's Australia, and there's some other countries as well. But if you haven't paid a visit to this free site, it's worth taking a look at just to see what's there. And that's the Immigrant Ships Transcribers Guild. And this is what it looks like, and you can see that they have some very interesting things on their website, things that you might not think about, Irish to Argentina, Canada, and so forth, and pictures, and it's just an interesting site to explore if you have some time to take a look at it. Also, the ships list. It's free, and it's been online since 1999. There are some other things like immigration reports, some newspaper records, records on shipwrecks, pictures, descriptions. other information. So you want to take a look at the ships list as well.